Look, we're both in shot. Someone called Steven Spielberg.
Hi, alright, Saki. I've not had as much practice. We try to set it up as you did.
Oh, only because you never bother putting it away after you finish recording.
Not only because I sit on my chair and just film facing me, I didn't do fancy stuff like taking it in the shower with me or taking it into the back garden with me, twerking as death in the living room.
You mentioned twerking with death in the living room a lot. I think you like that clip.
I really do like that clip. I really do. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Talking Trollocs. We've done another 100 pages.
Wasn't worth the hassle.
This will be a short one. Not a lot happened.
No.
So what are your general thoughts and feelings then, other than no a lot happened? Just on the book as a whole.
Overall, to date, I think we've still covered a lot of ground. We've seen some character development, we've seen things happening. On the whole, I'm still quite happy with where we are. The last 100 pages, I feel like I enjoyed the first chapter with the travellers the most, and then just enjoyed every subsequent chapter a little bit less than the one before, until the 30 odd pages of Rand.
That's fair. And how are you finding the multi-POV? Because in the last episode you were saying like, I think that might slow the story down for me a bit, and so are you feeling that?
Well, funnily enough, maths is correct and not subject to anybody's opinion. So yeah, by having 1/3 as much time with characters, their stories are travelling at around 1/3 of the pace as when they were in every chapter. Yeah. Didn't surprise me. What about you? Did you get some arithmetic shock?
No. I actually enjoyed these 100 pages. I sort of got a wee bit connected to some characters a wee bit more than I did in the last few episodes when I was like, it's a bin and I hate it.
Rand?
No, not Rand. I think that I will be quite shocked if I ever give a fuck about Rand. But I really like Egwene. She's solidified for me now. I really like her. I think she's class and I care about her a lot. And I really like Perrin as well.
I don't really see much coming from Egwene yet. It's all very much Perrin's POV.
Yes, I suppose it has been the past couple of chapters.
What is it you like about her?
I just think she's dead interesting, and I think like she just has quite a unique perspective on things. Like when they're talking about leaving, and like Rand's like, oh, I think she'll maybe stay with this guy or whatever, and then she sort of surprises him a wee bit because she's like, no, this is what we're doing. I don't know, I feel like it's maybe because everybody underestimates her at every turn, so then she makes a decision that surprises them, that I find it to be a bit refreshing, because they obviously know her a lot better than I do. I've just met the bird and they're surprised, and so I find that really interesting, and I think that could be more interesting the further we get into the story if we don't know what to predict.
Did you think that she would stay with the travellers or think about it?
No, maybe think about it, but I didn't think that she would stay in the end. I think she, out of everybody, was game for an adventure the most, considering she doesn't need to be here right now, and she is.
But then she got a bit freaked out when it got real.
She did.
And this could have been her, I've had my adventure and now I'm going to settle down with Jack Sparrow.
With Jack Sparrow. She could have done that.
Famously spent all this time on the sea. And Tom's not back yet.
No, Tom is not back yet.
But he will be, holding out for Gandalf's law.
You were quite annoyed at me, weren't you, when I edited the last video. I didn't call the segment that we spoke about Tom Goodnight Mr. Tom.
I gave her brilliant captions and then she lost the bit of paper and they were all mince, weren't they?
I didn't think they were mince, but thanks for your constructive feedback.
Wee witchy besties.
But that's how I talk.
Yes.
Speaking of the wee witchy besties, there wasn't really a great deal of Moraine in this 100 pages.
No.
We obviously got the one chapter with her. And I wasn't that enamoured.
She crossed a bridge.
Pretty much.
I was disappointed too, because I really enjoyed the friction between Moraine and the
Naveen.
Wisdom. What's her name?
Is it Naveen?
Aye, Nineveh.
Nineveh.
Well, that's how I say it in my head. So I really enjoyed the friction between them, because they had such seemingly polar opposite views, and obviously we discovered they were kind of same this power source, which we expected. And then I don't feel like we get anything new from the latest instalment with them. So it was all from the Wisdom's POV, and you know, Moraine didn't say anything new, and the Wisdom didn't think anything new. It was all stuff we've heard before.
Yeah.
If that chapter hadn't existed, then I don't think we'd be any further back than we are now. So that's a shame. And I worry that actually, if this goes on for too long, it's just going to be the case that the Wisdom just becomes this sulky, petulant sort of hanger-on that's not really bringing anything to the story. And I don't feel like Moraine's getting her opportunity to be sharp and, you know, really surprising like she was before, because they're not really speaking and they're just clopping about on horses. So, yeah, I was a bit disappointed by that.
I was as well. I feel like... I guess I just didn't like how this chapter was written with Moraine and the Wisdom, because so far I haven't felt like the book as a whole has been very info-dumpy. I think that it's actually been written really well, but I felt that chapter was very much like, well, what's your plan, Moraine? And Moraine was just like, well, this is my plan. Like, and I was just like,
Oh, she didn't have it. That was interesting
No.
though, because she didn't really have a plan. Or she didn't share that she had a plan. So do you think that she really doesn't have a plan beyond find them and then see what happens next and follow the pattern? Or do you think actually she does have a longer term strategy that she's not sharing?
I think if she had a plan, she wouldn't share it with the Wisdom, because I don't think she trusts her enough yet, because the Wisdom certainly doesn't trust her.
Bring people into her confidence.
She doesn't.
Easily.
However, I am not sure if she has a plan or no. I can't peg it. If she does, she's not sharing it. If she doesn't, then I think that'll maybe tell us a wee bit more how the magic system works. Like, because she goes on about it being all part of the pattern, and so how does she know that it is? Does she get visions maybe? Is she able to like foretell certain things?
Well, she accepts it retrospectively though. When it happens, she accepts it's part of the pattern. She doesn't do things because the pattern compels her to. I don't think she has a strategy. I think she has an end goal, which may or may not be the end goal that she's said that she has with taking him to Tar Valon. But I think she does have a purpose. There's something she wants to achieve. I don't think she has a specific plan for how to bring that to pass. I think she is winging it.
Right.
She's doing exactly what she says. She's looking for the ones she can find, and I think she'll just improvise. But I think she's comfortable with that.
I suppose, I mean, if
But
she's got faith in her ability,
yes.
then maybe we shouldn't be concerned. Shall we talk about Penguin?
Okay.
What? That's a hashtag. What?
Nothing.
Tell me.
I just think it's fun to look at you like that, because then you just get uncomfortable.
Thanks, I really appreciate it. So I really liked the chapters with them. This 100 pages. I felt like I got quite emotionally invested. We obviously had quite a traumatic time, and I feel like we got a lot of pining from Perrin's part and quite a bit of jealousy that we got to see, which definitely solidified my previous assumption that he has got feelings for her. And then obviously he confronts that when Egwin gets quite scared and, you know, they have the realisation that maybe actually they're not all going to make it out of this alive, and you know, death might be a kinder option. And he is sort of hovering over with an axe, contemplating on whether or not he should just offer. I got quite emotional at that. I felt like, imagine being in that position, it's somebody you love, and you maybe think that this is doing them a kindness because you didn't want them to have to go through hurt, pain, torture. Like, I really felt for him, and I don't think for a minute he would hurt her if he felt like it wasn't a better option, and that got me a wee bit. I was like, oh, like, this is quite real, like, I don't know, and I really connected to him from that point on.
It's not real though, is it?
Well, no, it's fiction, but like, this was, you know, the moment you had where they were all dancing in the tavern and you were like, oh, they're real people. This was the moment for me. I was like, oh, like he loves her so much that he would spare her this, even though him doing this would kill him and he would never come back for it. He would still do it to spare her, and I just...
Is that a sign of really, really loving someone? Like, do you have to be completely and utterly besotted with somebody to think that chopping off their head is preferable to what's coming up? Like, if there was a homeless person in the street that you saw in this predicament, do you think you'd make a different judgment?
Philip probably wouldn't care. Not to say that I didn't care about homeless people.
If there are any non-sociopaths watching, comment below as to whether you would put somebody that you don't really know out of their misery if they were going to be badly tortured.
You made me sound like a psycho! Would you?
Would I what? Would I chop her head off?
Well, would you chop a random person you don't know's head off just because you didn't love them?
Well, I mean, would I chop somebody's head off because I don't love them? Well, that's not really normal behaviour either. But if we take the scenario of the book, which is to spare them from horrendous torture and a slow, painful death, and I could just shoot them in the head or something, well then yes I would. I think I would, if somebody was going to die and I could make it a bit more painless, I think I would probably do it for most people.
Fair enough. We would take a drastically different approach.
So what about me? Would you chop my head off if I was going to be tortured, etc.?
If I felt like it was the better option for you, then aye, but I think it would be really difficult. I don't know if I would have the balls to do it. What about you?
Well, we just did that and I said yes.
I bet would you chop my head off?
Yes.
I mean, you'd chop my head off on any given day of the week, in fairness.
And if I was somebody innocuous, like, I'm trying to think of anyone they don't have a strong feeling on. Fiona Bruce.
What do you mean? There's loads of people I don't have a strong feeling on.
Well, I was going to say Philip Schofield, and then I was going to say Lorraine Kelly, and then I was going to say Holly Willoughby. If I was Ant and Dec, would you chop my head off then?
Maybe for Ant and Dec.
Well, I feel like we've added a lot of value in the position. As long as by now we've had Axe made a question up as the caption.
Yes, we will have. We'll have. So shall we talk about Boys on Tour? Boys on Tour. Boys on Tour. Which I discovered wasn't a song. I thought that the song Girls on Film for some reason was Boys on Tour. And so when we had the Rand and Matt chapters, that's all that I was thinking about.
It was pretty funny when she discovered how wrong she was. I found it thoroughly boring.
I did as well. And it just felt like a really odd lull because we've got Egwin and Perrin, who are in like mortal danger, stuff's happening, like shit's hit the fan. And then we've got Moraine, and they're obviously still searching for the kids, and while we appreciate this chapter was a bit boring, like, stuff still happened.
Well, they crossed a bridge.
Yeah. That was more than what Rand did. Rand just played his wee flute, and like, I feel like we just spent this huge amount of time going from town to town to town to town, talking about how good they were at playing their flute and juggling, and how many farmers' daughters wanted to fling themselves at Rand, and it just felt like a really weird juxtaposition compared to what some of the other characters are going through, that he's just like diddly diddly doo doo. Like, what? And
he's ostensibly our hero. Like, although we don't know which of the guys that the Dark One's after, Rand is kind of your main guy because the story started with him and everything on the farm and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it was an unusual pacing choice.
And I feel bad for Matt because I feel like I am not really connecting to him as a character, because basically any time Rand comes on the page, I just zone out a bit.
Like that.
Well, yes, that was perfect timing. And so I feel like I'm not really giving Matt a proper chance. But again, like, I think that when we do get any real time with Matt, I just find him a bit petulant and annoying.
He's quite whiny.
Like, he's just like, why can we not do this? Like, and Rand's always having to be like, well, Matt, you can't do that because... And it's a wee bit like he's a bairn in the back of the car going, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Fairness, that's what I kept thinking when I was reading it.
So, shall we do the wheel?
Yes.
I've forgotten whose turn it is.
Yours.
Right. Wheel in real time, which is
how are you feeling?
Current thoughts and feelings. I have enjoyed it, and I'm glad that I'm getting more character development for it and a wee bit more time to connect to the characters.
Bear in mind, last time you said this was approaching DNF territory for you.
It's definitely not a DNF, but it's went for a DNF to maybe a 2 or 3 star at this stage. It's still no blowing my socks off, and I am unsure if I will. I know I'm not wearing any, but I am unsure if I will get that reaction for the first book or no. However, anybody who reads the series says that the first book isn't a knock your socks off kind of book. So
now you tell me.
What about you? The last time you spoke, you says you got that ooh ah ah moment where you were like, this could be a good one.
I did, and then the last half of that section particularly dragged, so I feel like it's fallen back. It's slipped to maybe a 3.
So I went for a DNF to a 3, you went for a 5 to a 3.
I was only at 4. I've gone 4-3.
4-3.
But we kind of met in the middle. So
yeah. So we'll see.
Interesting to see if we keep going and you loving it and I'm hating it by the end.
I know, that would be funny if we just eclipse each other. Well, join us next time for the penultimate episode for all your thoughts, and then
of volume 1.
Well, yes, of volume 1 of what, 14? Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you're enjoying everything that you're reading at the moment. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!